Good morning, everyone. My name is Parul. I'm representing India Smart Grid Forum, and I welcome you all for the first session of the day today, which is session 9, Long Duration Energy Storage Systems. In this session, we'll be discussing about the technological variants for LDES technologies, LDES integration with renewable energy systems to enhance grid stability and reliability, economic and market factors impacting LDES such as cost, market potential and financial incentives, policy and regulatory frameworks, case studies and best practices, challenges and barriers, PHS and UPHS. And for the same, we have our chair, Mr. Arun Kumar, Professor IIT Roorkee. We have our moderator, Mr. Arindam Maitra, Vice President, L&T Digital Energy Solutions. Mr. Murali Baggu, Laboratory Program Manager, NREL. Mr. Alex Hogeveen, Rutter, Manager, Third Derivative. Ms. Mridula Bhardwaj, Capacity Building Specialist, International Solar Alliance. Mr. Sudhir, pathak, Head Engineering, Hero Future Energies. Mr. Saurav, Mitra, Director Market Development, Energy Storage Business, Sumitomo SFW. And Mr. S.B. Lakhapati, Head Engineering, Tata Power Solar Systems Limited. So with that eminent panel, I would like to give some brief introductions about our speakers today, and we'll start the session along with that. So I would first like to invite on dais Mr. Arun Kumar, Professor IIT Roorkee. A very, very warm welcome, sir. I request if you can come on dais. Professor Arun Kumar is from Department of Hydro and Renewable Energy from IIT Roorkee, is a civil and hydropower engineer by education, works in the area of hydropower development, environmental management of water bodies, energy economics and policies. We have Mr. Arindam Mitra. I would like to invite Mr. Mitra on the dais. He's our moderator today, Vice President, Energy Innovation and Grid Services, L&T Digital Energy Solutions, and is responsible for expanding global business activities related to advanced energy services, innovation and demonstration in transmission and distribution planning and operations, resilient solutions, electric vehicle integration, and energy storage. We have Mr. Murali Baggu. I request if Mr. Baggu can come on dais. Laboratory Program Manager, National Renewable Energy Laboratory. Through his work with the US Department of Energy's Office of Electricity and Grid Modernization Initiative Program, Mr. Baggu has been shaping the direction of power systems research at NREL. We have Mr. Alexander Hogeveen, Rutter, Manager, Research and Diligence and Electricity Sector Lead from Third Derivative. Sir is leading diligence work on innovative startups in electricity sector, in particular around energy storage. A very warm welcome, Mr. Alexander. We have with us Ms. Mridula Bhardwaj, Capacity Building Specialist, International Solar Alliance, and ma'am is currently coordinating ISA programs related to green hydrogen, solar electric mobility and storage. A very, very warm welcome, ma'am. We have Mr. Sudhir Pathak with us, Head of Engineering, Hero Future Energies. Very warm welcome, sir. Sir has completed electrical engineering from IIT Varanasi and is carrying more than 29 years of intensive design engineering experience in power sector of all forms, from thermal, hydro, solar, wind, hybrid, etc. And we have Mr. Saurav Mitra, Director Market Development, Energy Storage Business, Sumitomo SFW. He leads the market and business development activities for energy storage business of Sumitomo SFW in India. And we have Mr. S.B. Lakhapati, Head Engineering, Group Captive, Solar, BESS and Wind, Tata Power Solar Systems Limited. And he is having more than 32 years of experience. He's a leader in the renewable industry. Consistently demonstrated his ability in excel various roles within hydro generation, transmission and renewable verticals. So along with that, I would like to hand over the stage to moderator of the session, Mr. Arindam Mitra. But so before that, just a quick announcement that all the sessions are getting recorded, and these will be uploaded on our YouTube channel, and the links for the same will be going to our ISGF's more than 70,000 subscribers. So we have a much wider, larger audience for our sessions and for our speakers. So along with that, over to you, Mr. Mitra, without any further ado.
Can you open up my presentation?
Yes, sir. We'll just
Good morning, guys. First of all, our esteemed chair, good morning, all our panelists. This is a great topic that we will have a lot of debate, I'm hoping, today. And again, with Reggie and the team, you guys have really done a great job, in setting up this conference and bringing the people together. So we really thank you. So primarily, the key discussion points that I'm hoping we will hear from all our panelists, and I will request our panelists to kind of do 7 to 8 minutes, if that's okay with everyone. This will give us some time to ask questions. This topic requires questions because we are still very nascent, in the way long duration storage development is happening. So we do need some discussions because, the application, business model, policy regulation, and some of the challenges that we have needs to be vetted out. So what I have done is I have put forward to each of the panelists, as they will speak, 3 overarching questions. Why long duration storage? What is the definition of long duration storage? And where do we feel the application is as we move into, a zero carbon grid, in a certain time, depending on whether you are in USA or India or somewhere in the rest of the world. What are the regional cost targets that we need to take into consideration? And how do we inform the development of policies to enable deployment of these technologies? So these, if it is okay with you guys, for all our panelists here, if you could somehow capture these 3 questions as part of your discussion, I think that will be helpful. So with that, I would like to call upon our esteemed chair, Mr. Arun Kumar, to first, talk about the overall topic and then do his presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, ISG, for asking me to be here today. And I look forward to a very useful discussion with our fellow panelists, which is across the spectrum of the industry. I would like to ask a very simple question. All of us understand that the very first question is long duration. What do you understand by what do we understand by the long duration? Is it 1 hour? Is it 5 hours? It is 10 hours, 20 hours? And why do we need long duration? The very fundamental is that duration is, this is not a sacrosanct view that it's a particular figure could be irrelevant. But India, since having a good mixture of Still thermal is still base, which has got a relatively slow ramping rates, and a lot of infusion of RE is coming in this sector. Hence, we need to understand that what kind of long duration. We are going to certainly have the droughts of solar energy, wind energy, which we see every day, and locally or regionally or anywhere, season-wise or daily-wise. So that kind of droughts you can have, and these kind of events are going to be more and more in future because climate change is a fact which is going to lead to this kind of event much more. So what we have done, in fact, our group, our faculty colleagues, and we had completed one study for which is available on the website also, where we talked about advanced grid scale energy storage technology. So long duration, when we talk about it a duration with grid scale, though you can also talk about a small scale also, I mean local scale or household also. But when used 10 years back, we used to have inverter, and inverter used to, after few hours, it used to go away. But now, since electricity supply is much better, especially in many areas, hence, but still having that long duration outage is not ruled out once a while. So I think with that, I would like to say that this study we completed, and this is available on our department's website. So what we had done, we did assessment of all sort of energy technology. We also developed a nice cost matrix for this. So when we say grid scale, we talked about 5 megawatt and above. So that kind of size we kept in our mind, that 5 megawatt and above. We did not talk about household, battery storage, which happens on the solar and others, or even tomorrow, EV technology is coming. So we only talked about 5 megawatts and above. Domestic manufacturing capabilities, and what are the critical elements in this value chain. Life cycle cost of storage, which is, Arindam also mentioned that what is the acceptable cost today, tomorrow, day after, so future, what kind of admissible cost or acceptable cost for the storage. And obviously, everything requires policy and regulatory, so that this is taken in a complete. So this we completed in November this year, 2 months back, we got it released by the Secretary MNRE in the presence of a lot of people. So we studied all 5 types of storage technologies. The mechanical, which all of us know, the pump storage and compressed air, we focused more on that. The other one, solid gravity and flywheel. Flywheel is in a very small scales, but gravity is still a patented item, not much is coming up in that. Then electrochemicals, we talked about batteries, the major lithium ion and then flow batteries, which is coming up in a big way. In thermal, we talked about sensible molten salt. This, I would like to say, this is one of the area which is requires attention. Similarly, in electrical, we went through the supercapacitor and superconducting coil, magnetic coil. And then in the chemical, we also talked about power to power and power to gas. So for more details, you can go through, you can download it, you can go through more on details. And if you have any suggestion, comments, still you can share with us. So we did an economic analysis. We went into the value chain, we went into the supply, what is the status, what kind of critical component of import and export, import especially. So we went through all that process, and we have taken the price of that from Indian market. We are not gone into the dollar market, we went into the Indian market price. And then based on the best practices, we did these assumptions, which you can see here. Round trip efficiency, which is from 80%, compressed is 60%. Bolt ends, and so more or less 80 above, except that compressed air. The lifetime is 40 years, though lifetime of pump storage is much larger, but for the purpose of, since regulatory commission have picked up 40 years, but this could be even 80 years if you want to be really realistic on that. So construction time also we have taken more time, because nowadays there is a big thrust. I think one of the project is coming in Andhra Pradesh is going to show that they can also complete in 2.5 years as a construction time. So we made some assumptions that equity of 30%, interest on loan 9%, return on equity, which is also coming up that instead of 6.5%, can we go much lower? Because that's what government is trying to push it that, so if return on equity is 16% lesser, even 14%, it should be a good investment. We taken one charging cycle and then it's about 4 hours, and obviously for others this can be much longer. So we found, we went into the 3 options. One is that it is a storage cost when I have a zero cost of the energy, like if I have my own, I want to store it here. So we found that's about 4 rupees with the pump storage and about 10 rupees with the battery. And we taken 4 hours. Please, at this point, you may not forget that we take another 4 hours. And then if you take the purchase tariff as a 3 rupees, which may come down in few coming time. So this price becomes more. It's about 7 point, because cyclic efficiency is different. And then with the 5 options which you chosen is doable, or pump storage, lithium batteries. There are 2 batteries, variable and then this lithium, and then you have thermal storage and compressed air. But if you have annual escalation in the price of the purchase tariff, which sometimes is there, but in competitive markets may be different. So you find that this thermal storage and then compressed air also is getting closer to the competition. So these are the factors which you took about. We did the analysis on the PSP with the sensitive, where we went from capex from 3.5 crore rupees to 5.5 crore rupees. And we taking input electricity cost as a 3 rupee unit. So the price variations are there. If you take a duration of hours, longer the duration of the hour of this thing, and the cheaper it becomes. This is simple things. We also did a global warming potential of the 5 technologies, and then we found that about PSP is still outlier in terms of other global warming potential, lithium ion and compressed air. So this analysis we did using the national source. So this will be the last slide, which I like to put small time on this. Appropriate regulations are still yet to be made for storage. Regulatory framework has been made by Ministry of Power recently, but then it's only advisory kind of thing. But then appropriate regulations are to come where the ancillary services monetization still has to come in full scale, which is not at the moment. Allotment of technology and sites, still right now we have a choice, but then transfer process right now is not there, it's more on selection basis rather than a competitive basis. This has to be done at the state level, regional level, and then national levels. And supply chain manufacturing drivers are still not defined, and it's right now, since volume is not there, hence still it's in the stage. Financial institutions need to treat storage as a RE, because whatever the RE's interest rates and other conditions, they still have to go, they are not defined. And of course, the government of India need to support R&D because of some of the technology. I just said that compressed air, we don't have a single example, we don't have even thermal storage, much a 1 or 2 except. So some of the typical examples have to be piloted, because pilot will give you a lot of confidence and also learning. So they need to be supported also, and R&D support has to come from the government, because that's where we do it. And now these regulatory commissions also to declare, and they need to enforce the energy storage obligations, because right now energy obligation for the new project there, but that still is not to the desired level. It's still very low. So and that's the reason the DISCOMs are still in a stage, they are not in a very favorable stage of getting that. And some of the people are asking, though we have India is one grid, but still many DISCOMs are asking that their storage facility has to be co-located, co-located within the state or within the area. So that way, because even India being the country as a nation, but at the same time, there are always interstate politics involved around. Hence, co-location is also becoming very important. So we also suggested that some model regulations should be prepared there, and obviously market-based mechanisms should find out the right price of this. But here the question comes in. Today we get about 4 rupees or 5 rupees kind of electricity from the thermal power plant, which is even the newly built plant, and those plants will run for another, many plants will run 10, 20, 30 years later. So when we come with the storage, along with that, the price becomes 7, 8 rupees. Even with we talking about, we have a solar one, solar, which is, so we had to boost the solar, we had to boost the renewable energy because we had to decarbonize or making a net zero. So that storage cost is always a challenge to the discoms, and discoms, many of the discoms are not in much of a position to increase the cost of their electricity. So these are some questions comes, so that's why the to identify the right price is a difficult one, but the only time will tell us that what is the price. So I think with this, I leave this at the moment, and then will be, when we discuss it, will come. Thank you.
We'll probably continue talking on the same subject based on some of the drivers, especially based on a similar study in the United States. Again, thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to really speak on the long duration energy storage subject. Again, I'll be the presenter, but this work is certainly based off of a study called Storage Future Study that we recently concluded at National Renewable Energy Laboratory. And then Nate Blair is the PI for the team, and all the team that worked on the study are up there. So with all due credits to them, I'll try to make an attempt to present this and see if there are any questions, and we can exchange notes on how these things are. Just want to set the stage. I mean, as you can see, right, what we call new technologies. I mean, that's a very broader word, all the way from wind, solar, battery storage, everything. You're seeing very significant reduction in costs. I think we are actually looking at energy storage all the way down to 88% at the turn of the decade. In the last 3 years, the right side diagram is actually showing the pack costs as well as cell costs over the last 10 years from 2013 to 2023. A very significant decrease in this. So very common trend with other technologies. We see a lot of this decreasing, but again, derived by supply chain constraints and some of material needs. I think this is what is happening across the thing. The way we looked at it in terms of what energy storage deployment looks like, I think we defined 4 stages. No way these are sequential. I'll try to give the drivers of these 4 stages. Maybe I don't know if the stages is the right way to use it or not. Prior to 2010, what we really observed is that, primary service of energy storage was trying to do peak capacity time shifting operational reserves. I mean, that's where the big pilots are and the limitations are. And the potential that we had in the United States was all the way up to 23 gigawatts. And I would say, I'll probably not add 100, but 99.999% of that was pumped hydro. That was the energy storage that we really looked at before 2010. And most of it was more looking at 8 to 12 hour storage. If I have to define LDES, I think that's where LDES really falls in. And that's one of the ones that we are looking at. But the other driver, though, is I think hydro has other benefits or other needs that it has to cater, not just energy storage. So that has been the primary driver for energy storage. So after 2010, I think there are 4 things that we are looking at. One is operating reserves. I think that is one more evolving market that's coming up very high with the potential in US less than 30 gigawatts. And I think the time that we are looking for that is less than 1 hour. So a storage that can cater 1 hour battery needs is something that will actually work here. And the response time that we are looking is milliseconds to seconds. The reason I bring this up is we need something really fast acting, fast reacting to reserve needs on the system is what is needed. The second one, peak capacity or peaking capacity, as I mentioned, right? This is a little evolving field. I think the potential for that is somewhere around 30 to 100 gigawatts. But this one is actually strongly related with renewable energy deployments, more specifically PV deployments. I think it is more looking at PV variability and how can we mitigate the impacts of PV variability and make it more dispatchable. And that's what the peaking capacity is more interested in. And hours-wise, we are looking at 2 to 6 hours in this, and response speed of minutes, because that's when clouds pass by and we need to really catch the movement of clouds to really smooth it. The more evolving one, the third and fourth, I'll probably focus more on 3 and 4 because that's where LDES plays a big role. One is diurnal capacity and energy time shifting. This is also becoming an evolving market with a lot of renewables in the system. Looking at a capacity need of 100% gigawatts. It also depends upon phase 2 deployments. As I said, that's a peaking capacity requirement, as you saw. in the order of 4 to 12 hours, and again, we are looking at minutes. The last one is multi-day to seasonal capacity. This is where we need a big storage to really take care of multi-day events, long events, looking at a capacity need of 250 gigawatts, and more looking at a duration of days to months, and again, the minutes range. So the evolving 1, 2, 3, 4, as you can see, all of them are in that minutes need, and that's where the focus will be. As I said, these are not sequential. As you can see, 2, 3, 4 are more really based on renewable deployments, and that's what you'll see in terms of trends going forward. Very quick, if you're not clear, I think this is a simulated flattened load curve of ERCOT, really showing how the phase 3 or ultimate limits to seasonal mismatch really work, trying to look at daily variability, in the load, and see how can I flatten that as much as possible. That's what we try to do in phase 3 approaches. Phase 4, on the other hand, is looking at residual capacity. Sun is there in the morning, but not in the night. How can it really take care of the diurnal patterns of the sun, the residual capacity? And this becomes a very important need when the penetration or the shares of renewables goes all the way up to 90%. That's when we need to worry about it, because we are relying on a source that is only available in the morning, but not in the night. So storage actually fills the gap, and this becomes very important at that point. And then you can see California and ERCOT showing the need for this when there are in 90% penetration levels. Interesting thing, this is, I was debating whether to put this slide or not, but these are facts, right, based on analysis. The graphs there are actually showing different technologies, again, including what the chair has alluded to, all the way from lead-acid batteries. The red ones are actually lithium ions. We're looking at lead-acid batteries, compressed air, liquid air energy storage, zinc hydride, all of them. The one thing I want you guys to take away in a lot of graphs, look at those red graphs. Over the last decade, the total capacity cap in terms of hours of duration, you see a lot of decrease in prices for lithium ion. Lithium ion, 2019, 2020, 2022, 2024, you can actually see the steps falling down. So certainly driving the market, I think across the world, people are looking at how can we procure more good resources to really make sure we can tap into the falling price of lithium ion. I'll come back to this topic, but I just want to show some facts before I get into further discussion. This is an interesting graph. I think what it is looking at is capital cost on the y-axis and capital cost for power, which is more the capacity power, and then capital cost by energy, that is how many electrons it is delivering across the year. The sweet spot is bottom left. I don't know if you can see that. The sweet spot is really bottom left. We want lower capacity costs and lower capital costs for energy. There is nothing in that area. Some of the compressed pumped hydro actually has a lower capital cost of energy, but their installation initial costs are pretty high. Similarly, some of the flow batteries, sodium halide, these kind of things have lesser capital costs, but their maintenance costs are high. So that's the way I look at it. So as you can see, they need to approach to the bottom left, and the closest at that point is lithium ion. So we see that driving the market a little bit. I don't know if it's good or bad, but that's what is happening, and that's what is data saying at this point of time to look at. Ideally, I think we have a successful technology. Again, two things, technology versus business case. I'm not going to talk about business case in this one, but successful technology, we really want to get to that bottom left in terms of duration, and we are anticipating that might happen in the next 5 to 10 years where we see technologies qualifying into the bottom left of that graph. The second thing is efficiency. This is a very important factor when we look at short duration, 4-hour, 18 to 12-hour, and long duration. I will also characterize 18 to 12 hour as long duration, depending upon where you sit. But the only graph, the only bars that actually are beyond 0.8 or 85% actually are lithium ion in these graphs. Again, it might feel biased, but these are facts really showing that we are on that side of the diagram. We need to really identify some other qualifying technologies that can meet this, but that's what they're saying in all across the different time scales that we're talking at. I'll leave it two takeaways. I think that's a lot of data. Certainly feel free to look at the report. It's a publicly available report, and you can actually see a lot more analysis done across the gamut here. First one, storage durations will likely increase as deployment increases. I think we're actually seeing that the more the deployments we see out there, that is actually directly proportional to how much time the storage is available, or storage duration, rather than time, I should say, duration is available is what we're looking at. I think peak load periods widen with more storage deployments, requiring long duration storage. I think that's where we think long duration storage really makes sense. And PV, or solar PV, I should say, narrows the peaks, but only to a point, and beyond that, we'll certainly need long duration energy storage. And I can relate this back to the shares of renewables that you're having in the system. The more you get into 60 or beyond that, it is inevitable that we need to really get into that 4 to 12 and beyond, and we need long duration energy storage. And I think it really depends upon each country's goal when they're getting there and when they should be ready with this long duration energy storage. The second takeaway, we do have like 10 different ones, but I just picked 2 for this particular discussion because it's more focused on long duration. Seasonal storage technologies become really important for 100% clean energy systems. I showed an example of 90% before, but this is the graph on the left is actually showing seasonal variation, or I should say more year-long variation. Actually, there are shoulder months. This is data from US. There are shoulder months where our renewable technologies might not provide credible amount, or I should say confident amount of power needed, and that's where seasonal storage will be important, and that will be a market that will pick up as we get to 90 to 100% renewables. Especially 100% decarbonization scenarios, in this case, you're actually seeing 94 of the demand over the year met by variable renewable energy. And then I think the bare minimum is 6% of demand met by renewably fueled thermal sources. And then the variability need to be met by what we call the energy storage. And we need to be prepared and be ready for that when we size that as we go forward. That I'll stop here, and then you can see the link to the report. Feel free to jump on it if you are interested. And this work certainly has been funded by Department of Energy and Interstate Renewable Energy Council, and NREL has conducted research on this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I was told I only had 5 to 6 minutes, so I didn't bring a presentation because I was worried it'd be too long. But I think the key takeaway I want to talk about here, so just to give an introduction, I'm with Third Derivative. We work with startups all around the world. So we've got a number of investee companies, for example, Energy Dome working on compressed air. We've got Antora working on thermal storage. We've got different folks working on sodium. And I think one of the key takeaways I want to provide here is that these technologies, yes, they're competitors, absolutely, but they're also complementarity. So for example, we've got a model where we're looking at the need for 2-hour, 6-hour, 24-hour, and 100-hour storage, somewhat similar to what Dr. Murali was talking about. And what's interesting is that for every system in the world, so we looked at India, we looked at Japan, we looked at Europe, we looked at US, there's a need for all 4 of these durations. It's not like you can have just lithium-ion battery and that completely obviates your need for long duration. It's not like you have long duration and that gets rid of your need for short duration. So something both Professor Kumar talked about as well as Murali was round-trip efficiency. And a good example of round-trip efficiency is for very long duration storage. So in our model, 100-hour storage only cycles 10 times a year. So when you're only using something 10 times a year, you really don't care about its round-trip efficiency, or it's a less important factor at least. So things like compressed air, which Sumitomo is going to talk about, or thermal storage, which is very low efficiency, or hydrogen, which has very low round-trip efficiency. This makes sense for these longer duration applications where round-trip efficiency is less important. In contrast, lithium-ion makes a lot of sense for that short duration, 2-hour, 4-hour, where round-trip efficiency is critical. I think the key takeaway I want to leave people here with is, different technologies in different niches, we need to stop comparing them to each other. We need to start comparing them to coal. So what is coal? Coal is the longest duration storage of it all, right? Coal has been stored for hundreds of millions of years. We dig it up and we burn it, right? And what does a coal plant provide? So in India, we often think of coal plants in terms of rupees per kilowatt hour energy, but it's actually a bundle of services. A coal plant provides ancillary services. It ramps up and down. A coal plant provides capacity resources. It's there when you need it at peak. A coal plant provides seasonal storage in the sense that I can turn a coal plant off for 6 months during monsoon, and then I can turn it on again during October when it's really needed. And so the key here is what basket of technologies can replace a coal plant. So yes, we need wind and solar, but we also need battery, we also need pumped hydro, and we also need LDES. And so I would dispute Arun Kumar's, Professor Kumar's point that there's a need for VGF. If you look at the cost today of the package of services, wind and solar, together with short duration storage, together with long duration storage, that package is cheaper than coal today. That package costs around 4 rupees per kilowatt hour. So I think it's really, really crucial from a policy perspective to have technology neutral capacity options. Currently, when we build a new coal plant, it's not tendered. There's no opportunity for storage to compete. And I've talked to a lot of RE developers, so I'll let Sudhir go more about what the fantastic work they're doing at Here Future Energies. But they can combine wind and solar in any combination you want. They can combine it with batteries, they can combine it with LDES, they can combine it with whatever technology is most promising. Let's let them decide what technology to use. Let's say, here's what I need. I have a coal plant. It's 1,000 megawatts, or it's 800 megawatts. It costs 4.5 rupees per kilowatt hour. It provides power 85 or 90% of the time. It provides this ramp rate. These are the services that coal plant provides. How cheap can you provide me that same basket of services, including block-wise availability? And that is where you'll see the developers figure out what combination of storage is best suited to meet that application. So I'll leave it at that and pass it back to the chair.
Thank you. So now that we have had 3 of our presenters, any questions? One question at this mid stage to our panelists? No questions? Yes, sir.
Hi, good morning. This is Sandeep from Tata Distribution Limited. I have a very specific question regarding the cost of hydro PSPs. So do we have any specific input or any specific suggestions as to what are the mechanisms to bring down the cost of pump storage hydropower plants? Because that is a major deterrent from the utility perspective.
See, the cost of pump storage and cost of hydro, there is a difference. The very best difference is that in the cost of hydro are though PSP is also site specific, but it has much less site specific in the sense that you have 2 reservoirs, and in today's time, constructing a new dam is always a challenge and it's not encouraged anymore. So using the off-river, both reservoirs off-river, and one could be the top of the hill, one could be on the top, at the bottom of the hill. In there, the cost patterns are appearing. Now, we have about 82 projects, or 72, I think, 72 with 50 gigawatt kind of reports have been now submitted to the government, Ministry of Environment Forest for the clearance, and then Central Electricity Authority for PFR clearance, etc. And we are trying to bring out some kind of a internal kind of a monograph or something, guidance, because cost can be always different. Most of the time what is happening that there is always an encouragement that we must try to reduce the length of the conductor systems from upstream to downstream, and also choose the specific capacity 100 megawatt, not 102 or 105, which used to be earlier. So there is a pattern of the cost from 3.5 crore rupees to 5.5 crore rupees. Some of the projects are of higher and some of them lower. So capital cost, and I just shown you that sensitivity analysis, that the duration of the electricity, if is more, the cost of the storage will come lesser. So, but then any typical hydro is a cost site specific. And most of the pump storage is not in the mountains of Himalaya, where cost is quite unpredictable because of geological things. Most of the PSP are going to come in central and southern India, where the geology is fairly good, pretty good and fairly good. So that means the tunneling is easy to do compared to the other one, and that makes things are more predictable in terms of cost also. In Himalayan, you take any project, costs are very difficult to be, to arrive at starting and what finally you arrive at. So there will be a pattern. And I'm not saying that this pattern is going to be, cost is going to reduce. Because in hydro, most of the cost goes to civil works. 70%, 75% cost goes to, and where the cement and steel and excavation and concrete is the major cost. And obviously that's not going to be reduced in future because there are a lot of infrastructure projects coming up. Equipment is only 30%, that has a very small component, about 7-8% of import component. It's basically control, variable control, etc., which comes from outside. Rest is made in India itself. So I don't think that the cost is going to reduce, but certainly utility is going to be increased because they have a reliable, fast response and long duration technology.
I just want to make two very quick additions to that. One is I absolutely agree. From a civil works perspective, there's not a lot you can do to reduce the cost. But there is a portfolio company we have called Ray Energize, and they effectively have a heavier fluid. So it's a proprietary fluid, but it flows like water, but it's about 2.5 times as dense. So you can have 2.5 times reduction in the height, and therefore a lower cost. Now it's still in the pilot stage, but to me this is exactly the sort of technology that from an R&D perspective. Now from a commercial perspective, may I ask what state you're from? You said you're with the DISCOM.
Yeah, please.
Which state?
TPDDL, Tata Power Delhi Distribution Limited, Delhi.
Okay, so again, I've been through TPDDL's tariff orders, and I know what your costs are per megawatt year. So if you look at the NTPC Greenco tender, it was 108 lakhs per megawatt year. That's far cheaper than Dadri. That's far cheaper than Hadurganj. That's far cheaper than Bar. That's far cheaper than Nabinagar. So yes, we should be innovating and investing in R&D to bring the cost down, but we need to stop comparing PSP to battery and compare PSP to coal, because it's already substantially cheaper than a lot of the coal plants that are in operation and are getting built.
Can you please tell me more about the per unit tariff of the specific plant technology which you were referring to? Rupees per unit.
But so you never ever would build a storage plant. Storage is not an energy source. It's a negative energy source, right? There's a round-trip efficiency loss. You would only build it in combination with solar and wind. So either you get Sudhir to build you solar, wind, and storage combination, or you get him to build solar, someone else to build wind, and build the storage yourselves, and you blend it yourselves. But either way, the levelized cost of storage is not what matters. It's the blended cost that matters, whether he's blending it for you or you're blending it yourself. And that is what's cheaper than coal. I'm not saying the LCOS is cheaper than coal. I'm saying the blended price is cheaper than coal.
So that is a very important point. We'll come back. So let's go back. Mridula, please come in. I think there is merit to discuss this package concept, because right now, as you heard from Murali, any lithium ion can go up till even 8 hours, no problem. And as you, Alex, you said, even if you try to compare cost between flow batteries and lithium ion today, don't do that because you have the answer. The question is flow battery with 8 to 10 hours solving an application for you, and what is the cost of that of that application? I think we need to think in that term rather than fighting against each other on a technology which is slowly maturing. 10 years ago, was lithium ion as it is today? Answer is no. Was the cost the same 10 years ago for lithium ion what it is today? The answer is no. So maybe the same thing will happen with flow batteries if we start having these applications. So I fully support Alex, your concept about package. Have the problem, identify technologies, give room for innovation, then look at the cost. Totally agree with that concept. Mridula, sorry about that. I just wanted to have some engagement with the audience as we move along.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Mridula Bhardwaj, Capacity Building Specialist from International Solar Alliance. First of all, thank you very much to ISGF for giving us an opportunity to present. Now, I would like to say that for those of you who are not familiar with ISA, ISA was co-founded by India and France. And we are, as I speak, 97 full members, countries, and 21 are signatories on the way to become full members. So I wanted to show this slide to tell you that it's a huge platform for not only for collaboration, for capacity building, but also in terms of business to business, government to government interactions, in specifically for the new technologies and upcoming sectors like storage integrated with RE, green hydrogen, and many such things, which you will see in later. So we have 118 member countries as I speak, including the signatories, and we are governed by 4 regional committees which span across geographies, Asia Pacific, Africa, Latin America and Caribbean, and Europe and other regions. So that's about ISA. And we have 9 programs as we speak. So the 5th program is storage related, for which I'm going to give you some information. And I manage scaling solar e-mobility and storage program, and also solar for green hydrogen. This is just to give you an idea, because we are talking about storage integrated RE or solar. As I speak, we have around little less than 10 gigawatt of aggregated project in pipeline. Some of them are already commissioned, and they are across geographies, but mainly we are dealing with solar water pumps, solar rooftop, solar mini-grid, solar parks, and they are, as you see here, across geographies. And we have already set up 27 demonstration projects in least developed countries, which are called LDC, and small island developed states. So out of 118 country memberships, we have around little less than 70 countries which come under LDC and SIDS. So much about the platform that we offer for nucleating storage projects. Now, we provide support to our member countries in terms of helping with we directly, it's a government-to-government interactions mainly. So we help the member countries in policy and regulatory formulations so that we can have high-speed deployment of energy storage. Provide support for navigating the complex landscape of storage. As you just saw, that we have short duration, middle duration, and long duration storage. So we plan to help the government in deciding the strategy of which storage technology to take. And that is very much dependent upon that country's targets, roadmaps, and where they are in terms of infrastructure and ecosystem. And then we identify and customize business models to meet the specific needs of the member countries. And we make very country-specific roadmaps. And then the last stage is pilot projects. This is to get the confidence of the not only the users, but also the governments and investors. And that's where after that, the commercialization stage comes. So that's how we operate. And in terms of the storage, in fact, as I speak, we are just starting our first storage project, 2 storage projects. They are basically short and medium duration, and one is LDES. The phase 1 we've just started, where we are developing prioritization framework for energy storage system, for our least developed countries and small island developing states. This is mainly to help them in energy access and also to get the diesel out from their solarized mini grids, whatever are existing right now, and get the battery in there. So that's where these small and medium duration storage figure in. And after that, in the phase 2, which will be later this year, we will be doing a lot of deep dive studies and doing feasibility analysis and impact assessment in terms of environment and socioeconomic impact. And then the third phase starts next year, which is pilot. Similarly, for LDES, it makes more sense to plan the LDES in the developing nations. And because, of course, in island states, you don't have much land and all that, constraints are there. And then we'll do deep dive and pilot implementation there as well. So in terms of LDES, what we plan to do is, first of all, we'll do the technology landscaping. That it can be, it'll be very helpful to our member countries to know what kind of LDES or what class of LDES they should be targeting. After that, we will, at the country level or region level, we will do the challenges mapping, investment opportunities, another big area that we work in, and that will take into account the evolving energy market. And then we will do the prioritization framework. So we've done a similar thing in green hydrogen, which I presented 2 days back in the same conference, where we divided the ISUW member countries in 4 categories, where in terms of how they are placed in ecosystem readiness, we had 4 buckets created. The similar thing we're going to do here, that in terms of their ecosystem readiness, we have 10 to 12 parameters. We're figuring out right now that what will be the screening parameters to make the framework ready. And then we will prepare the prioritization framework and then start approaching the countries to make a very deep dive, a country-specific roadmap for adopting LDES. So in the phase 2 will lead to, as I said, pilot design, but before that we will be doing a very deep pilot pipeline identification, and that's where our collaborators from the multilateral development bank and development finance institutions, they come into picture like World Bank or ADB or EIB, African Development Bank, and they help us in doing pilot projects, and also then of course they look for pilot large-scale investment in those feasible identified countries and spaces. So I work in the capacity development side. So because LDES again, or storage as a whole, is a very, very developing or evolving in terms of implementation sector. So we are doing this, going forward from this year, a lot of certified training so that our member countries can learn in terms of technology, in terms of policy, regulatory investment, what are these things they should get prepared for. And so that's one of key areas we will be working on, and we look for collaborators or people interested can approach us for that. The last slide talks about, we have set up Star C centers. This is a very good initiative of ISA, which is called Solar Technology Applications Resource Centers. And here, what we do is we set up these centers in our member states to help them in capacity building, skill development, whether it's green hydrogen, whether it's solar or solar charged EV or storage, different areas of renewables. Of course, the focus is solar and solar derived applications like solar generated green hydrogen, solar integrated storage. Then we set up testing and certification, R&D, standards, consultancy provisions, and then startup incubation is very much of interest. As I speak, we've already commissioned 2 centers, Ethiopia and Somalia. 3 countries are at advanced stage, and 6 countries have signed MOU to set up the Star C centers. We have received 7 countries' expression of interest, and as I speak, around 375 to 380 government officials have been trained on developing schemes and programs on solar energy and related areas. Going forward, we'll be training these stakeholders and specifically governments of our partner members in the storage domain. So thank you very much. So I just presented our plans. Maybe next time when we meet, we'll have some good analysis for some of our member countries presented. Thank you.
Thank you, Mridula. Mridula, I have one question for you. Sorry. You mentioned about long duration storage, but I think you are looking at all the above, right? I mean, you are looking at 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, depending on what that feasibility will give you. Is that correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Just to give you an example, one of our member country, Paraguay, I think, if I remember correctly, they have a lot of hydro in that country. And similarly, there are many other countries which have a lot of hydro. So what we are doing is, there the hydropower is the cheapest. So what we are doing is we are trying to see a combination of different storage and also introducing RE in that and see how the mix cost is working out to be. So, but that's at a very initial stages, yeah. And yeah, so that's where we are right now. But I just wanted to mention about another kind of LDES, which is redox battery, vanadium redox battery. So some of the countries are front runners, as you know, redox battery. We have China, Japan, or US. Japan and US are member countries of ISA, Germany as well. And so even in India, I remember a few years back, Imergy was making redox batteries when Sun Edison had introduced Imergy. So except for the Nafion, which is the ion exchange member, they could make everything indigenously. That's what I was told by that company. So when it comes to redox battery-like system, you have to worry about indigenization of raw material, the technology. I think in terms of India, we still haven't started making Nafion. We do a lot of assembly in terms of that, pretty good at it, indigenization, only the assembly part. But in terms of the electrolyte or Nafion, those are the missing elements from our supply chain. So we need to prepare, in case you want to manufacture indigenously, we need to prepare the roadmap for which are the go-to countries, which are the go-to countries. So that's why it's important. ISA as a platform offers a lot of, opportunity that you can go to those member countries which are rich in that resource. Like, for example, in lithium-ion batteries. In India, if you talk about India, then we don't have nickel, we don't have lithium, we don't have cobalt. We are dependent upon imports. But there are many member countries of ISA which are rich in this. Congo, for instance, is good in cobalt. We have Congo as a member. Then similarly, nickel. So this is a good platform to have business to partnership, trade, government to government, some kind of thing. And same goes for many other technologies. Even green hydrogen, if you talk about PEM electrolyzers, it uses a lot of scarce materials. And those scarce material, I was looking at the ISA member countries, the rare earths and other scarce materials that are not in India, and if you want to make PEM, you have to import it. So we have many countries which are member of ISA and which are very rich in those metals, whether it's dysprosium or rare earths or even the non-rare earth scarce materials. So those are the things I thought will be important to, when you're making a strategy for any country in storage, I think those are the things one should be looking for.
So that's the key point that, I'm sorry I asked you a question, and I did not ask a question to Murali and Arun sir. But that's a key point that you brought up, is depending on the country and the availability, will also dictate the choice of the technology, especially in storage.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
Hi, good morning all. After such wonderful deep insights from, I will say, technologists and august researchers, those who sit in the lab and do a lot of research, I'm just trying to change the gear and move towards the people who are really on the ground, like us, and try to dwell upon, like why at all we are talking about, let us say, LDES, or let us say storage by itself. And as we speak, so like I'm proud to explain that we have just won a very first of its kind tender, which is load following tender, which we just won 2 days back, which is actually is a right shift which is moving towards you can say transitioning the base load stations based upon RE, right? So now I will try to take to a story, kind of a journey, like why we are talking about it, and what is the reality behind, and why we are doing it, what impact it has on the grid, so that I can explain why we are and why is it necessary. So yeah, I think you will be moving it, or do you have any? Okay, here for me. Okay, sure, thanks. Done. So, like why we are decarbonizing. So in the decarbonization story, if you take that, we say that, yes, now we have to transit towards decarbonization, we have to be carbon neutral. As I keep on saying, carbon neutral is actually a wrong word. It is a carbon dioxide or COX neutral. Carbon is a very essential part of our body, of every human being. We only have to balance out, that's why we have to make it neutral, right? So typically, I will just quickly go that what we typically do or what anybody typically does in order to make the system a carbon neutral. So any industry or any consumer, they have to measure, monitor and mitigate a carbon footprint, how much carbon they're emitting in any ways, and they have to go for scope 1, scope 2 and scope 3 assessments, right? So as I know that time is very short, so I will try to move slightly quickly on that. What typically we do in general as an IPPs, as of now what we have been doing was trying to mitigate the scope 2 carbon emissions. That means whatever industries or any consumers were consuming through grid, we try to mitigate or displace that quantum of thermal energy, or you can say fossil fuel based energy from RE through RE. That is called scope 2 way of decarbonization. Scope 1, you can see that whatever you are guzzling CO2 within your premises, like burning furnaces and coke and all those stuff. And then if you're able to displace that emissions through a green maneuver, that is called scope 1. Scope 3, like many of you people have flown here through air and you have spent a lot of CO2 of your organization as in scope 3, right? So these are 3 broad paradigms on which it is being done. So let me take that, the focused area. When you are moving from, I'm telling specifically on, you can let us say about scope 2, wherein when you are putting some RE sources into either into your premises or you're taking away from premises as an open access, that is like you are simply putting plain solar or plain wind as a combo, then that is you can maximum or at max you can go up to RE40. That means 40% you can displace from whatever you're taking. But as you move ahead, you can use regulations like banking, exchange, and those, you can reach to RE70. But when you go from 70 to 100, I'm saying again about the part which is typically scope 2. Then you have to go for storage. So there we are where we have to work in order to make it RE100, completely displace your CO2, or you can say scope 2 into RE100, you need storage. And definitely for scope 1 and scope 3, what we say as path to net zero, where definitely like a beautiful molecule called hydrogen has to come, and it helps in decarbonizing, which is not the topic of today. So yeah, more RE for this as well. That means for scope 2 also, in any case, you have to create hydrogen per se, for which you need RE, but you need an RE, the very, very important point here, like which is maybe pertinent to LDES, that you need to provide hydrogen or let's say methanol or ammonia which is, as of now, which should be amenable or compliant to the ISCC standards, right? And ISCC standard says hourly profile, hourly banking, not like what we have in India as of now, monthly banking. That means you need a kind of a storage system which can be able to make your RE amenable, or you can say pertinent for each hour. So let me put a very key message here, that we keep on saying that yes, RE is intermittent. That is fine. RE, we all know, but it is very, very rigid, right? There is a slight difference in rigid and flexible. Here, that RE, we all know, we are dependent on sun god or the wind god. Whenever it comes, it has to come. They are rigid because we can't change neither the solar radiation nor the wind speeds. So that means whatever it comes, it has to go. That it is very, very rigid. The whole fundamental behind is that we have to make it flexible. Now, when you say flexible, so flexibility is either every minute, every second, every week, every day, or even every season, or every, you can say, annually. So long duration energy storage comes when you have to make flexible beyond a day, or let us say beyond 4 hours, right? So let me focus on this particular, you can say, the excerpt from Grid of India, or you can say from CEA, that you can see because of this rigidity of RE, there are now very frequent collapses of the grid, especially in the region, you can say Rajasthan, and at times in the western part to an extent. Why this is happening? The reason being, your RE sources, like if I give you a story, like being I am from thermal background fundamentally, initially, all your coal beds used to be in the part of Odisha, Bihar, Jharkhand, or you can say somewhere in south as well. And all your industries are belonging to which place? Typically in the western part of India, right? Or maybe to the southern part. Your, you can say desert area, which is Rajasthan, or to an extent slightly Gujarat, it was neither having thermal power plants to that extent, which are prime movers, or it was also not happening or having any kind of industry which can provide a lot of support or load and source in the vicinity. But our all RE, or you can huge quantum of RE went towards Rajasthan. So as a very simple electrical engineering, these sources of RE are very, very high impedance. They are very good source of power, but they are very, very poor source of fault. They are very, very poor source of reactive power. They are very, very poor source of primary frequency response, right? So you need a synthetic inertia, you need a reactive power compensation, which RE being very rigid and very, you can say, driven by power electronics and these silicon chips, so they are not capable of that. So this is leading to all these ruckus. So fundamentally, there are 2 or 3 kind of problems what we face. One is called steady-state active power issues, steady-state reactive power issues, and the transient and dynamic stability issues. So these 3 problems are there. That's why we are here, we are discussing, we're deliberating how to go about it. This is the famous, you can say, I will say, infamous duck curve. I'll be quick. So wherein you see that because of the rigidity of solar, your duck neck is going sharper. That means our fellow thermal generators, they have to ramp up their thermal generation in the evening time to cope up with all those stuff. Even if you see here, that as of now, as on today, we are being told that RE, because of RE, now we are now power rich. There is no demand gap supply. But you can see very well, all thermal power generators, their PLF has gone down, dwindling down, because they have to keep huge spinning reserve. Because whenever RE goes intermittent, they have to compensate for the frequency, compensate for the reactive power. Quickly, that today, as of now, we are only, you can say, energy-wise, RE is only 11 to 12% energy-wise. But as we go further and also piggyback hydrogen and all those technologies into it, we are going to be 25 to 30% or even 50% in near future. That means the stability issues will be hugely along. So regarding the reactive power, again, as I told, that your RE is not a good, you can say, gradism for supporting reactive power, because all your loads need a lot of reactive power for running big pumps and big motors. That's why you need a kind of reactive power devices, either through SVGs or through even battery storage. And even let me take you through this, and just giving one more message, that whenever we say about the pump storage, so the pump storage, I'm not a big fan of pump storage. The reason being, it solves only a partial problem, because your pump storage is geographically limited, right? It is supposed in Karnataka, in Kurnool, whereas your RE is in Rajasthan or Gujarat. They are not co-located. They can solve the problem over Excel. They can solve the steady state problem. But whenever there is going to be a fault, it will not be able to compensate for that, because the prime mover is far, far away. That means you need a kind of a storage, a long duration energy storage, which is co-located along with that, so that whenever there is a transient issue, your prime movers are there to support that. In the same way, this is what is happening, like, let me go and take, putting it in this context, that we keep on saying that yes, my inverters or wind turbines have a huge, very good capability curves, as we used to have in case of thermal power plants. But if I take just this one back, our RE, whether it is solar or wind, they are extremely, extremely distributed even within a complex. That means whatever your capabilities of the solar inverter or your turbine is there, at the grid level, they are of no clue, they are of no support. Let me skip few of them so that I will quickly touch upon the transient stability. As anyway, I think if you see that there are two perspectives. Our system, all over, if you see your solar or wind, they're extremely, extremely poor in inertia. Wherein if you take thermal power generators, they're extremely flexible as far as providing the primary frequency response, secondary or even tertiary, right? So that's why, let me move, I know I'm moving out of time. What we actually need, that is the key message, we need a kind of closed loop control. Unlike what we used to have in the thermal power generators, we need a closed loop control wherein it is very important that we respond to all the changes either in the fuel input or in the grid requirements. So here what is a key message, that yes, the storage is the panacea for all those problems, whether it be pump storage, liquid air. I'm also a fan of liquid air, and I'm a special fan of carbon dioxide based energy storage. And even you can say iron air. These are the real problem solvers as we go ahead for the long duration energy storage, because they can be co-located. They are so flexible, they can be scaled up, they can come down, they can be you can install quickly, and they are the real problem solvers. So I will just take a pause here, because although I can take another 4 hours on this, but respecting the time. So the key message what I want to send, that yes, we are now at the anvil, wherein like the tenders, like load following tenders, now they're coming up. They may be still viable with the lithium ion, or maybe to an extent with the, but as we go towards RE100, net zero, it is very, very important to go for and make the long duration energy storage viable. And this can happen only if you are going to invest, you're going to scale up. There are several long duration energy storage technologies which uses very conventional commodity equipments. That means there is no further scope of reducing the cost just by improving the technology. The scope is scale it up, right? And also the last point, there should be a regulatory mechanism by which you can provide a fillip or incentive for ancillary services, which will only help LAES, or you can say these kind of technologies, to come into the fore and be viable. Thanks.
Thank you, Sudhir.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Saurav, and I lead the market development activities for Sumitomo SFW in India. I thought I'll be the first one to talk about this, but unfortunately, Alex and Sudhir explained this already. So as you can see, as Alex mentioned, when you talk about thermal power plants, the first reason why we are talking about energy storage is because we are trying to transit from conventional thermal power plants to renewable energy. And when we talk about a thermal power plant doesn't only provide electricity, it also provides electricity when you need it, and also helps the grid, keep the grid stable. So, as Sudhirji mentioned, if you look at on the grid services, the stability part of the thermal power plants, there are actually more than 30 events that he mentioned, which had happened between January and May, so about in 17 months only. And when we talk about grid services, as he kindly explained about all these different services, so I am not going to get too much details into that. But when we talk about firm power, which is what we talk about dispatchability or the flexibility that Sudhirji mentioned, what happens here is what you see on the the yellow line, that's usually a typical load curve, and the green bars that you see are the typical solar profile. And what we try to do is we try to basically distribute that over the non-solar generating hours, which are in the night, evening, and night. And what I'm showing in the brown box that you see are typical the peak powers, which we are discussing a lot in India today. But as we go forward, as we move towards more in the future when we have larger solar and wind, we also need to look at bulk energy shifting, which is what it's being shown with the blue bars that you see. But apart from that, one of the other things which is also very, very important in this context is the transmission infrastructure, because the solar and the wind parks are usually quite often in quite remote areas, and we have to build a capacity of transmission infrastructure, which are going to be used only for a few hours in the entire day. And so essentially your returns are quite limited. So the options are obviously that you store energy and distribute that over a longer period of time, and essentially defer that capital expenditure. The other thing, this curve Sudhirji already shown. So basically what happens is whenever you have an event, an external or an internal event, so usually the first defense is the inertia, which essentially helps in reducing the rate of fall of frequency or rate of change of frequency, and then your other services, other reserves start kicking in, whether it's primary, whether it's secondary, and then further the tertiary reserves. But what actually happens is, what actually happened, say in last year, you can see the steep curve drop. That's almost in 9 milliseconds. It went down from there was a steep frequency drop. What happened because of that in this single instance? More than 7,000 megawatt of generation loss happened, and more than 4,000 megawatt of frequency load shedding happened. So, which brings us to the point that when we are talking about the grid services and the transmission, so there are other aspects. Arindamji mentioned about the applications of LDES. So if you look at, and Alex also mentioned about the mimicking the thermal power plants, where we look at the entire characteristics of thermal power plant, whether it is the electricity, whether it's the dispatchability or flexibility, and the grid services. What we provide on liquid air energy storage is, with renewable energy, it can actually mimic the characteristics of the thermal power plants, including to an extent primary reserves also. Primary reserve is something that it can provide whenever it is in operation, whether it is charging or discharging. But other than that, all the other services, because what it works with on the output side is quite conventional turbine and generator system, and it essentially covers all the different grid services. Now, liquid air energy storage itself is probably quite a new topic for a lot of you. So what I thought is I'll just run a quick video to make you familiarize with the technology, rather than me trying to explain it over 5-6 minutes.
Liquid air energy storage is an ultra-flexible, long-duration mechanical energy storage technology The operation of the LAES comprises charge, storage, and discharge processes. Here's how it works. During the charging process, gaseous air is converted to liquid air. Excess renewable energy is used to run a compressor, which sucks in air and pressurizes it, reducing its volume. The heat emitted during the compression process is stored in 2 heat storage tanks. The air is then purified and liquefied before being stored in liquid air tanks at cryogenic temperatures. The liquid air tanks are insulated, so the liquid air can be stored for several days without any self-discharge. During the discharge process, the liquid air is pumped and evaporated, converting it back to gaseous air. The heat recovered from the compression process is used during the discharge phase, and the heated air is expanded through a multi-stage turbine to generate electricity, which is fed to the utility grid. The cold energy emitted during the evaporation process is stored in cold storage tanks and reused during the liquefaction process in the charging phase. This recovery of compression heat and evaporation cold enhances the overall efficiency of the plant. And the presence of rotating machines on both the charging and discharging sides of the plant allows the LAES system to provide inertia support to the grid. The entire process makes use of only clean air and does not burn any polluting fossil fuels, making the LAES a sustainable and clean energy storage technology that benefits everyone. To find out more about this amazing new energy storage solution, visit www.shi-fw.com.
So just briefly, couple of points here. When we look at the schematic, what is important to look at is the charge, the discharge, and the storage. All are decoupled, which means we can individually configure these as per the requirement of the application. So if there is a scenario where we are using it only with solar, then of course we can increase the charge capacities and have a longer duration of discharge and a longer duration of storage. Whereas, if we have a combination, a hybrid of solar and wind, we can easily go with a lower charge and smaller storage duration. But what is important here is if you look at the storage part, this is actually the lowest cost in the entire combination, which is why we talk about typically at least an 8 hours or 10 hours plus storage to make it viable, where because the incremental cost for the increase in storage is quite minimal. The other aspect which I'm just going to touch upon briefly is this is an excellent solution when we are trying to integrate with the industrial heat processes, whether it is absorbing the industrial heat, waste heat or cold, or whether it is providing heat or decarbonized heat to the industrial processes. So, and of course, there are a lot of benefits and key USPs which are associated with it. But I think one of the key points from a policy perspective, and Arindam ji mentioned about the application, is to look at the holistic view of what is required when we are talking about energy transition from conventional thermal power plants to renewable energy, which includes the dispatchability or the flexibility in the renewable energy, as well as providing the grid services and the transmission infrastructure. So when you look at all these, and that is probably where in the times to come we have to look at the holistic cost of this entire solution, and not just in the individual components of it, rather. So with that, I'll close. Thank you.
Typically, you will have the utility go first. This time, you will have the utility go last, and they will tell, and he will tell us what all we have been messing around and not talk about and do. So, sir, the floor is yours to end.
Yeah, about to say same thing, because everybody is flying on the very, very top level, policy, finance, everything. But finally, it comes to the actual ground level engineers, how to meet this expectation with what you can say, in optimal cost, optimization in design, optimization in, you can say, layout, how it will operate, what are safety standards we are supposed to consider. I'm just going through an application wise. It will be a bit, you can say, technical, and I would appreciate Arun sir has just gone out, but he has done a good, beautiful study report on these long duration projects, and it gives overall idea of the scenario in the coming future. And most importantly, what he has tried to do he has to try to make it applicable to Indian environment, Indian context. That is the most important matter when we actually sit together for actual designing. See, most of the things, if we are saying the technologies and everything is already developed in European countries or US, and then we just try to replicate it here, which doesn't serve purpose of our vast country where we have got temperatures ranging from minus 20 degree in Leh towards plus 25-50 degree in the Rajasthan, and towards south it is again increasing. We are always talking about a one nation, one grid. Although it is now, it is technically it is feasible. Earlier we used to work in 4 different regions as a technically a grid. Now we are one grid. However, how to transport that energy from one source is somewhere in Rajasthan, somewhere in south, solar is in Rajasthan, wind in south, how to bring it to the western side where actually load centers are there. So that, and then major impact on the thermal, what it is going to impact on the thermal. So I will just start from the application perspective I am going to speak. So when we talk about effects of renewable, distinguished panelist has already mentioned variability of the particular renewable generation, and which is actually giving an actual task or challenge to the grid operator. One of our load dispatch center, few colleagues are here, they would understand what exactly we are facing the difficulties while managing the grid. Now, why it is happening? One is the intermittent nature of the renewable. Second, the changing customer demands now. Earlier, it used to be typical industrial demand load, or it is typical domestic load. Now it has become like a continuous process. Industries are coming into the cheap power, which is coming from RE. So everybody is concentrating on that. But then to provide the continuous power to these process industries, it is becoming a bit difficult through RE. Effects of climate change. I already discussed like the variations in temperatures, variations throughout the country, how we are going to manage. That itself gives another challenge. It adds to the challenge of grid operator. And the more important, which we have already taken as a decarbonization goal, which is going to impact very much in a large amount on the grid. So all these 4 factors, what we need to consider, which can be addressed through large duration energy storage, which can actually, we have to convert actually RE energy into the base loaded energy. That is what we are going to say here. When we talk about the energy and large storages, these 3 parameters basically we talk about: energy, time and power. So how do we increase the energy? We have to increase the time duration, and then how we are going to manage it. In the Indian context, this is what is the present situation. We are at 172 gigawatt renewable. Our target is 500 gigawatt renewable by 2030, and out of which 60% will be the renewable. Now, how it is going to affect? It is going to reduce the stability of the grid. The grid is going to be more and more critical to operate, and it will be stressed. Operations will be there. So to overcome these particular challenges, we have to have certain amount of capacity farming type of, wherein actually your energy storage comes into picture, and more we go towards the decarbonization, amount will go up. So now presently what we are trying to say here is we are trying to address these issues through two technologies which are now commercially available in terms of storage, hydro storage, pump storage schemes and battery storage. That is what is the current focus. And we need to move towards other technologies. I am just going to briefly going through the other, I will just give some what we are doing exactly today. To meet the intermittency of this particular renewable power, we are trying to have a correlation between solar generation and wind generation, and we are trying to set up a hybrid power stations, hybrid power plants, wherein we are already using around 40% of solar energy and 60% of wind energy. It's only because in Indian context, both these solar and wind are complementary to each other from the weather perspective in India. However, these are going to be having higher installed capacities which we may not be able to use, and we will be wasting power in certain domain. That's why we are now moving from hybrid to RTC. RTC basically during the daytime you will get the solar, early morning, late evening you will get wind project, and during the evening peak we are trying to go to address the issue through BESS, battery storage. What do we do from maybe midnight to the early morning? That is the main question. And there actually we can use this long duration storages typically to manage a daily cycle. Actually we are, what we are doing now, we are just seeing on the daily perspective how it is going to affect on the, so RTC is basically fixed duration RE projects, wherein if you see the top one which hybrid curve and the bottom FDR curve, it is bottom curve is slightly flat as per the requirement of the demand. But in both the cases, what we are going to do, we are going to install extra renewable resources. That is going to increase our cost. And what do we do with that additional energy, around 250% and 225% additional? I am not going to be paid. As a utility, I am not going to be paid even if I am going to generate more. And that is going into the costing part. And this energy we wanted to use for the long duration energy storage systems. I will just briefly go through the different schemes, what is available. Pump storage, everybody knows hydro, it's a conventional method. Tata Power is in this business since last 105 years, 110 years almost. We have installed one project in 1996, 30 years back, but we were never able to use it as a pump storage. We installed pump storage. We invested, but the regulatory mechanism were not that conductive to use this particular as a pump storage. There were technical issues also, because all this technology we imported, pump storage, wherein it was designed for a particular band as per the European standard, and that band was not available in India. We were not able to get the power at that particular band. If you start to use that pump as a pump, it will create a grid disturbance. And it actually happened 2-3 years back. We lost on some trippings, we lost pump storage, and it gave shutdown to Mumbai. So that is the criticality of operation actually. So someone has asked, how do we reduce the cost of this pump storage? Nowadays focus is on installing new pump storage. Actually, we have to do a study wherein we can convert existing conventional hydro stations into pump storage, wherein lake and the pipelines are already available. We have to just invest into the reversible turbine, and how we can do it. That would be cost around, as Arun sir said, it would be somewhere around 10 to 15% we can use it, and we can convert conventional hydro stations into pumped hydro stations. Life-wise, it is a good life. We are already using it as a generator for 40 years. Conventional generators, we have done twice renovations. So roughly 40 years is the life of hydro. That is good enough. Pump storage will also have the same life. I will switch to the compressed air storage. This is a bit good technology. Although it is not yet promoted in India, it is being used in US markets. And this is basically from our point of view, we are not using this technology because it has got a particular limitation in terms of sites. Developing the caverns where we have to put the pressurized air, and then latter part of the day or maybe whenever we require, we have to use it as a conventional generator. So there we have not gone for much, but this is a good technology, environmental friendly technology. It will have conventional generators which will give inertia to the system, and it will resolve the grid related issues on the. The next technology is battery technology. This battery basically NAS technology, which is environment friendly. Although we are right now going for lithium because it is readily available for the commercial use. NAS is also available, but main drawback of this system is its low RTE. It is around 60%, then we are going to lose 40% of power in just conversion. So that is the main issue, but it is not using any rare materials like lithium. So it is a cost effective. We should go for it. And certain amount of policy decisions are required on this. Japan is heavily investing in this. They are already operating 400 megawatts with this technology. Lifted weight or gravity storage batteries. This is something like, in a layman's language, we can say it is a lift, wherein while going up, your potential energy goes up, and while coming down, the same motor which is lifting you up, if you put it in the reverse direction, it will generate. And that particular thing we are going to use as a principle here. This also is a basically totally mechanical components, can be designed for a good amount of time, duration. It can sustain for more than 30 years. This is the best technology available, but right now it is in the R&D stage. Few pilots are being done worldwide, maybe around 10 kilowatt or something like that, but this is a scalable. Flow battery. Nowadays we are very much considering about the flow battery. These are also modular. We can use it, but right now it is a very costly affair for us as India, and it will take a lot of time for us to get it implemented here. The next technology is CSP, concentrated solar power. Few of these plants are already installed in India. They are operating. We are having a good amount of solar energy with us, so we can definitely make use of this particular technology. And this is being used in Australia, and there are a lot of plants are available in Australia. This technology seems to be good for India, but we need to think from the policy perspective. See, whenever you talk about renewable energy, there are two types of generators in that. First is conventional generator. Some technology use conventional generator which has got its own inertia, and other technologies like wind and solar and this battery technology, they use inverters. Traditionally, we are operating grid with inertia which is actual inertia provided by the conventional generators. Whereas in the renewable, we mostly go with virtual inertia, and that's the major problem. Virtual inertia, you cannot have much more under control if the inverter trips, and then it creates an issue for the grid. So this is just a comparison, how we can use and which application we can use. Wherever we are having a normal generators, conventional generators, you can use with for peak shifting, capacity firming, and ancillary services. Typically, pump storage, compressed air storage, and lithium ion also we are using right now, and CSP. We can use it for ancillary services. Yeah, I will just finish it off. This is, I have taken this as a case study recently in January this year. We have commissioned this 40 megawatt 3 hours battery for Seki in Chhattisgarh. And typically here we faced issues, whatever I am saying, whatever we are getting technologies from China, it is designed for Chinese environment. How do we make it applicable to Indian environment? There was a major challenge we faced here. Although the solar power was distributed in 7 land parcels over the span around 10 kilometers away, we have to bring it, pull it together, and then we use this for the battery charging. One challenge I have to say here going forward, whenever we bring technology from other part of the world, we need to see when we specify the tenders, those should be actually to the context of Indian requirement, Indian environment. We have two different factors. One is temperature, another is humidity. So in European country, these factors are not there. They are designing these systems for their own environment. How we are going to adapt it to Indian environment? And there it becomes a problem for engineers to actually design a system and operate it in Indian conditions. So going forward, long duration energy storage are the need of the hour. We have to go on work on it. Currently, our dependency is on pump storage units and battery, which are having a better efficiency. Other LED long distance energy technologies, we need more R&D pilots required. Improvement in efficiency will come once we understand the technology properly. Policy framework is required for new technologies. Right now, our policy is towards pump storage and batteries, which are already commercially available. Now we have to think more on the other technologies from Indian perspective, I am saying. And Indianization of manufacturing. We talk about make in India, how far we can Indianize these particular technologies in India. One point I wanted to mention here, while I'm talking from my experience, we won this SECI tender for Chhattisgarh in 2021. We could not get proper costing and proper technology from around the world for this battery. We purchased this during the COVID period where lithium prices were very, very high. We could commission it. Then we thought of Indianization of this. And our own group synergy, we tried to use it, and our TACO, which is one of our company which gives EVs, battery modules to EV, they are having that technology, how to convert cells into EVs, cells into modules. So for this particular first project, we brought the modules from outside, and rest everything, containerization and other things, we assembled it here and we provided it. That has reduced a lot of cost and it has given us a good insight into it. Now, Tatas will be venturing into cell manufacturing in India, and we are trying to make completely Indian battery storage systems. One last requirement which is there are no safety standards for new technologies in India. Whatever we just borrow from the other countries, and those are not suitable for Indian context. So we need to study these requirements, and we should go forward. That's all. Thank you.
So now the fun part, right? We need to have a discussion. Sir, let's ask the folks for some questions. Can you pass the mic? Who has the mic?
My question is to Mr. Lakhapati. Sir, you had discussed about this solar thermal power, CSP. And you had mentioned that some plants are working in Australia. But there are many more plants working across world in different geographies, like in UAE, Dubai, where COP28 happened. Largest working plant is there itself, 700 megawatt. In US, California, there are plants working from more than 50 years. So in these technologies, and in even China, at various geographies, more than 20 plants are working. So for these technologies, no more indigenization is required. Only thing is manufacturing has to be done in India, and they can be done very cost effectively. And moreover, our capex is also much lesser than all other technologies which you showed. So what are your views in coming up with this technology fast? Because lot of areas, high DNI areas in Rajasthan, Gujarat, Ladakh are there. And in Rajasthan and Gujarat, what is happening? PV is being put up on those areas, like in run of Kutch and Thar Desert. Then you said about the regulatory portion of that. In this, what new regulatory thing you want? Thank you.
See, the first plant of this type we have constructed in Rajasthan in 2014. But there was no further much, it started again with the PV. With the reduction in tariff in PV, everybody concentrated on PV business. Nobody is concentrating on the CSP business. And government policies are also not pushing this particularly. That is the main hurdle here. Definitely all Indianization can be done here in terms of the technology, but it is not moving further.
So why it was not there at that time? Because the storage part was not given PPA. Right. And when the company Godavari, that plant is running very well and is profitably running, now IndiGrid has bought it because it was profitable. So at that time that LCOE was 12.2 rupees and PV LCOE was more than 17 rupees.
More than 17, right.
But it was never called. Had it been that CUF would have been say 100%, he would have quoted even 5 rupees at that time itself.
Right.
So now at least we should learn, and with the FDRE tenders you were saying, policy is not, no changes are required. FDRE tenders are technology agnostic. Only one has to decide how they can get least LCOE and provide the power at the required times also. And rest of the time they can always sell to the grid without any NOC from SECI.
Right, I agree with you, but basically we have got carried away with the solar and wind of normal conventional renewable businesses.
This is going to get the attention. This particular thing will go in, because as mentioned to you through the studies.
Your views on this?
So when you were saying it, I told sir, this has legs, and I will let sir say.
You see, this particular attention, as I said, the three technology which I mentioned other than the batteries is getting the attention, especially the compressed air and the solar thermal storage. It's getting attention. Now this has been brought in the focus, and there are not many case studies are there. I mean, there are few cases in India also. Somehow the thermal has been away, but now in the storage is getting attention now of the government. And obviously innovations, everything is there. Even in Andhra Pradesh, there is one project of 50 megawatt, purely electricity, but then all equipment are outside. But that is also without storage. Yes. But storage, since I don't know whether you were there, I mentioned that storage has to come on the center stage in terms of all your regulatory framework. Right now, it's not that much, but it's coming up. So, because the need is being felt now, we always, when Bharat comes, we always go that time only. We don't plan so in advance. So that same thing is there. Now RE is coming in a big way, hence the storage is coming. And for the as a storage push, since 2015 we are trying that you start bringing this storage, because if you want to push the RE, you cannot have it. By the time, no, we will have it. Our grade is very good and all that. But now, I think Mitra and Sudhir has brought out very clearly that the issues of inertia, which is practically not there. It's a few seconds. Inertia is only in the grid. I think the grid controller brought a study last year. So it's a big issue. It's a big issue. And that's where the thermal plant will not go for the next 25 years. Let me also tell you very comfortably. They will not go, because whatever we say here, whatever carbonization here, they will really stay here because the grid has to be saved by inertia, which none of this technology have. Solar certainly does not have. So here this issue comes, which can provide the inertia. So, yes, it's coming because there's a motor. Anywhere there is a motor, will bring it over here. So that's what I think. Sudhir has brought a very nice point, though he has, it's not a very technical. No, I'm not talking CSP, but he talked about compressed air also, and he said he's a very big fan of that. But please understand, we are having a coexistence of all technology, coexistence. Battery is pushed because battery is quick to come, very quick to come, but anything today, geographical conflicts, issues are so dominating at the market. You can see year back 2 years, the oil has become on the center stage. Many European industries are closed because of the power prices has gone. Power prices has gone. So we have to see indianizations of the things, what is available, material availability, and those things are on a center stage of the government. We can always say this is good, that is good, but at the same time, center stage is localization. Indianization is the one which is going to last long. Even the countries, developed nations like US and others, they are also going in that series. It's not that only we as a developing nation. So we have to go, and today all technology will come, because even that NEP or that resource adequacy plan which has been published by CA last year in June, they also brought out this, with PSP you have, 42 gigawatt of battery. But then, what were the premises? Premises that the PSP will take 6 years to come. If tomorrow you give the PSP, then the BS will out. But if you have a third technology like compressed air, that will be out. So today, those things, as a planner, as CA, all they think what is possible to do. That's what is important.
Let me inform you, there are 2 tenders planned by some regulatory bodies only, and with the help of regulatory bodies and ministry on CSP only, but they are taking time. Although I am not saying this is the only technology, but this is the technology which is having reasonable maturity and cost effectiveness in India, and with respect to the 100% make in India also, and our geographical location is such, and huge areas are getting covered by PV. That will then delay the thing. That is the issue.
I think this point has been now, I think, well said. Any other questions, please?
Good morning, sir. Myself, Anuradha Singh from BESS Rajdhani Power Limited. Sir, as Lakhapati sir mentioned that what technology we are using in the abroad technologies, there is no safety guidelines for that. So actually we are so much concerned about the environment right now. Are there any scrapping criteria and recycling of these technologies available?
I think not yet. We don't have those policies even for battery also, how to discard the battery. That is also an important factor. Wherein this rare material like lithium, we have to dispose it of properly. There are not so much, actually we are delaying it. See, we are talking about 12 years or 10 years of battery life, and we are delaying it actually. Proper mechanism has to be there. It is there in the outside India, it is available, but not in India. Pardon?
Further, that is going to impact our environment, sir, if we haven't done it beforehand.
See, from the tenders which we are getting, there is only single line. Once the battery is disposed of, it has to be in the bidder's responsibility. That is the only line available. And bidders are also taking time, because anyway, another 10 years down the line, there will be something. It will come up maybe 2 years down the line, 5 years down the line. This has to be addressed. Right now, that is what I am saying. We are just carried away by the costing part of it, and all the renewable, solar, wind, and even for battery, we are just going ahead so that we meet our targets. But the effects of that you will come to know maybe another 2-3 years down the line, it will start coming up.
Yeah, I want to add a few things that we are looking at, because EV market is probably an early adopter of a lot of this storage technologies. And I think they are in market almost 10 years, which is actually completing their first life. The reason I'm bringing that up is if you look at life cycle costs of these technologies, that is a very important thing that we need to look at. It's not just, what's the capex, what is the maintenance cost, how are you disposing it, and what is the impact of it on the environment. I want to certainly bring up a lot of research happening in the second life of the battery storage system, where you're using it for very fast charge and discharge like EVs, and then 80%, 90% of their life, that is left, we can actually use for grid applications. And what next, and then how we can dispose. I think that's a very important topic that is still under research to come up with solutions to look at. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, and I think even like OEMs are ready to take it back and recycle the lithium out of it. So I think this is the thing which is in talks. And as we see that there are technologies which are being developed, you can extract the precious, or you can say carcinogenic as well as precious items out of it, and reuse and remake. So this is going on. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to add very quickly, there's at least 4 startups, Atero, Lohum, Metastable, Reelemental, that absolutely can do lithium-ion recycling, 95% plus recovery rates. As Sir mentioned, you just have to put it in the tender. Make sure you say the bidder is responsible. Either they'll take it themselves, or they'll take it and then they'll give it. But this is a technically solved problem, is what I want to reinforce.
I also just wanted to add the safety thing that you mentioned. So it's not just the lithium battery. What Mr. Lakhapati showed, different kinds of, including sodium sulfur, for instance. That is high temperature battery system, 300 plus. And then in the past, the NGK, which makes it, has reported fire. So that's a lot of innovation is happening related to making it, the electrolyte work at 100 degrees or 115 degrees. And patents are available. So, so one good thing about sodium sulfur is that the life is very long. But the corrosion thing, which is caused by the high temperature operations and molten sulfur, is something that is getting solved. And maybe the cost economics and the other things that we mentioned on the slide will get impacted and in the positive way. So, yeah.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. So my question to the panel would be, do we really need to look at LDES as the sole solution? Because as Sir said, Baggu Sir said that the response time of the energy storage can be different with respect to the operations perspective. So can we look into the matter that LDES may not be the solution? You can add a mix of energy storages at a particular place, so to mitigate the response time as well as the utility during any scenarios.
No, that's a great point. I will add 2 comments here. I think one thing I was mentioning, right? When we talk about the 4 stages of where we are in the energy storage, it's not sequential, it's not timing. It's about what is happening in the grid that will actually give a tipping point to long duration energy storage. And I was actually showing stage 3 and stage 4 where you have 60% and 90% of renewables. That's when you really need 8 to 12 hours battery storage. Or you really need seasonal being a little more when you get to 90%. So those are the points. Those are the, I think, epochs in the system that will actually trigger the need for this energy storage. That's what we observed. Again, it might change to the construct that we are looking at, but certainly want to bring this up. Yes, there are technologies. People have worked on hybrid batteries, right? Combining fast reacting batteries to more energy batteries and all that. There might be evolving technologies, but business case drives what we need. And whichever technology is competitive and can be harnessed best probably will win at that point of time. Yeah.
I want to make a quick addition because I absolutely love NREL's 4-stage framework. I'd encourage you to look it up. I read it before. It's a fantastic framework. The one caveat I would give is India may actually hit the stages earlier, like they say, this percentage. But in US and in Europe and Australia, you've got a lot of gas, and gas is very flexible. Whereas India is extremely coal dependent, which has a very slow ramp rate. We're talking on the order of minutes. So for an operational stability perspective, even though India is quite low in its RE penetration, it already needs battery storage for that balancing, like these Rajasthan solar parks have shown. But that's different from the need for LDES. LDES is about shifting. It's about pushing things from one season to another. That's a different need than the grid balancing and the grid stability, where synchronous condensers or batteries with synthetic inertia on the inverter might be a more appropriate solution.
Any other questions? So I have a question to all the panelists, and then let's start from there, and then maybe Arun sir you can answer and then conclude the session. So we talked, and I'm going to do a quick summary. Okay. So we talked about different applications where Murali, you guys pointed out where the applications of long duration storage can come in. Actually, in your presentation, you actually showed the duration. But then in a lot of other presentations, I could not understand, are we talking about long duration or are we talking about battery? What are we talking about? Is it less than 4 hours? Is it 4 to 6 hours? It is greater than 8 hours? Because that's what will drive the policy and adoption and cost. And Murali, to your point, that sweet spot of $2 kilowatt and $2 kilowatt hour, like the $300. So we are to be blamed for that. 5 years ago, we said storage can do everything and anything and everything in the planet. And the reason why this cost is not getting into your bucket, some of the battery is being used for resilience, some of the deployments is used for resilience, which is the energy function. Some of them are used for capacity. So it's a mixed bag. If you don't force, the cost doesn't come down. So that is something I would like you guys to think, because that's what you mentioned. Alex, you talked about package. And that is very important because, to some of the comments that we are getting, not every technology will fit in. And we should not try to discard a technology because it cannot fit in because of cost. We have to look at the value, right? Mridula, you brought up a very important point, and this actually is very relevant in the Indian market. Whatever storage technology that you take into, make sure the material is readily available, right? And because in US we can do whatever we want, and have the government. Hopefully the next government will pay. We will find that out. But the availability of supply is very important. And then sir kind of gave a broad brush view of what exists right there, the studies that he has conducted, and kind of giving you a purview of where to look at, right? And Sudhir, you looked at it from a technical standpoint. There are technical challenges that you have to overcome, both from a grid standpoint as well as what the technology is solving, right? And Saurav, you introduced another form of storage, right? Molten salt. And our utility friend out there gave us a smell check, although he spoke for 16 minutes, by the way. So we will make sure next time we cap him at 11. He said that look at the grid first. Don't try to decide on the technology. Look at the grid first. So what my very simple question is, so I'm not interested in technology. It seems like technology will come in. What is the policy? What is the duration? If you guys can, start, sir, from you and kind of bring in, and then Arun sir will.
Yeah, basically, we are considering duration of around, it should at least give you the duration of 1 day at least for to start, so that daily variations we can manage. At least that we should look at first, and then we can increase the duration of storage and all those things. In terms of battery, we tried to, it was there in my presentation, but I didn't cover it. We are saying that battery will last for only 4 hours, but we can still extend it to up to 6 hours. We need to invest some amount of additional energy as we it's a basic fact of battery. When you slow discharge the battery, it will give better efficiency. So that margin is there, but then there is a complications coming out of, because in our environment, we have to feed more auxiliary power. So what is that sweet spot between the auxiliary versus additional battery charging, battery storage requirement? That we'll have to look at. Another thing we can have, okay. See, why, I will answer your question also why I took that much. Because everything is happening from top to bottom, then we have to manage everything. In terms of actual practical issues what we are facing, we need to understand that also. It is coming out of my heart, because when I have tried to install this battery, what problems I have faced, I only know. That's the only takeaway from this. Sorry for consuming more time.
So first I will come to the point you mentioned about duration. As you mentioned, and I think Dr. Kumar also mentioned initially, that there is no fixed definition of duration at this point. But the way I see it is, it's basically how you define the peak power and the general power. So when we are talking about peak powers, usually we used to talk about 2 hours, morning, 2 hours, evening. But that is also changing now. And when we talk about longer duration, it's generally for the bulk shifting. The second point that you mentioned about policy, as I mentioned during my presentation, what probably, I'll echo what Alex mentioned, is to look at something to mimic the thermal power plant characteristics completely. That if we are at some point of time in future, maybe not today, but maybe 10 years, 15 years down the line, once we have the thermal power plants no longer in the system, how do we mimic that entire characteristics from the renewable energy plus certain storage or other mechanisms? So that's probably what we would like to have.
Yeah, quite interesting question. So let me give a small context that the bedrock of the Indian system is like we are still a developing country, yeah, and hugely tariff-driven market. So that means, and we as an IPPs, as a modeler, we do not look at the duration, right? We look at where you get the LCOE as a minimum. That is regarding point number one. Point number two about like policy. So again, as a bedrock, 2 points. Number one, we know that as we are reaching towards net zero, or you can say net RE100 for India, LDES is the solution. But let us take one good point from China. China runs a program called High Runner policy, wherein they carve out huge quantum of money only for investing in the high-level technology, right? I've seen that myself almost 7 years back. So there should be carved out fund capital for innovation and on LDES technologies to be put in, and DISCOM should agree on that. So that is my thanks for that.
So I just have 2 quick responses. The first one relates to what you said about the material sourcing. So I just wanted to clarify that we need not depend upon indigenization work on the raw materials that are inherently found in India. What I meant was that first stage is to, for instance, look at lithium battery. There are many variants. LFP is the one where you need minimum imports. Except for the lithium, you don't need nickel, you don't need cobalt. So when we make a gigafactory level thing, then LFP, of course, will take a center stage. But at the same time, because the other, nickel and cobalt containing batteries have higher voltage, and there are different issues, advantages because of the light weighting you have to do for the electric vehicles. I just want to make sure that, to clarify that we still can go for that, provided we have the supply chain security addressed. And this, the government of India has done. They established Kabil to take care of that, to take the leasing rights at the, for instance, Bolivia they went, Chile, South American countries where lithium is quite a lot. So they just ensured the supply chain. So that's one thing. Second thing I wanted to mention about the duration part that you mentioned about the LDES. We have seen, because we work across different geographies, the definition of LDES changes as per the country requirement. So it can be few days, it can also be few weeks or months. So based on the particular the location, geography related constraints, I think that it's for the country to determine what can classify as LDES. So I just wanted that one.
So firstly, I agree with the previous three speakers, but the one, I think, to me, the most important thing is least cost resource adequacy planning. Now, I wrote a half-an-hour article on that, so to try and summarize that in one minute, very happy to share the link to that. But fundamentally, India is a developing country. We need the lowest cost power at the lowest tariff. And right now, that's not happening. You're seeing new coal plants come up. Let's take Obra, for example, 6 rupees a kilowatt hour. There is no process right now for the regulator to say who can provide power at this level of reliability, at this block-wise availability, at this ramp rate, cheaper. You have the Renewable Energy Agency say we're going to do a little bit of solar, a little bit of wind, maybe we'll do a storage pilot, but let's do least cost resource adequacy planning, cheapest power, and let the technology providers fight it out, whether it's hydro, whether it's geothermal, whether it's CSP, whether it's battery, whether it's liquid air energy storage. Let them come up with the lowest cost solution for India.
You are a wise man.
So I think let's close the session. To close the session, just one or two sentences. Long duration, definition-wise, as the demand and the location, but RE, solar and wind being the dominating factors, certainly long durations in many of the studies considered more than 6 hours and above is called long duration. But it could be days also. That is all because RE is such an intermittent in nature, that's across the globe also. But in terms of technology, pilot projects need to be supported, and for that the R&D support has to come from the government. Normally these kind of risks are where the government comes into. And I think with this we have talked about the emerging technologies. There is no fixed technology, fast response, long-term response, inertia response, all that we talk about it. All technology have a future. But indigenization, also like to say, because of geographical conditions and locations of politics, indigenization is the key word which we need to look at, because that's sustainable. The rest are not sustainable. So with that, I think let's close that event, and a big round of applause to all panelists and moderators. He has done very well, a good job. Thank you.
So with that, we bring this very enriching and insightful session on LDES, long duration energy storage systems, to the end. And for felicitating our moderator, chair and speakers, I would like to invite Ms. Reena Suri, Executive Director, India Smart Grid Forum, on the dais. Mr. Arindam Maitra. Mr. Arindam Mitra, moderator for today's session. Thank you so much, sir. The chair for the session, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Professor Arun Kumar, Professor, IIT Roorkee. Thank you so much, sir. Mr. Murali Baggu from NREL. Thank you so much, sir, for joining the session. Let's give them a big hand, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Alexander Rutter, please come in front, sir. Thank you so much for joining. Dr. Mridula Bhardwaj, please, from International Solar Alliance. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining. Mr. Sudhir Pathak from Hero Future Energy. Thank you, sir, for joining and giving your insights. Thank you. Mr. Saurav Mitra from Sumitomo SHIFW, India. Thank you so much, sir. And Mr. Lakhapati Shivprasad D from Tata Power Solar Company Limited. Thank you so much, sir, for joining today. I would like to invite everyone for a